Welcome to the Touch MBA Admissions Podcast. Do you need help figuring out which schools to apply to or how to get into the world's top MBA programs? Hey, you're not alone. Join thousands of others on this podcast and on our site, touchmba.com, as they seek the admissions edge. And now, here's your host, Darren Joe.
What's up, guys? It's Darren. Welcome to the Touch MBA podcast. In case this is your first time listening to the show, what we do is bring on admissions directors and students and alumni from the world's top business schools and ask them, what makes their program special. And of course, I try to get them to open up and share their best tips on, how you can improve your chances to get in. And sometimes we get inspiration from you. Our listeners who come to our site at Touch MBA to get free school selection help and to get a free profile evaluation. I've seen a very common question over the past couple months, and that is how to show quant skills outside of your GPA and GMAT. So I think this is probably a pressing issue for many of you. But before we dive into this week's episode, I want to give thanks to a new sponsor we have for the show. At Empower, we believe that helping to turn the dreams of future global leaders and innovators into reality is of utmost priority. Therefore, we offer international MBA students flexible financing for their education in the US without requiring cosigners or collateral. What matters most is their future potential. So visit empowerfinancing.com/borrow-touchmba for more information. Empower Financing, DC Consumer Lending License, ML9261, Public Benefit Corporation. So I want to thank Empower Financing for sponsoring the show. That's M, not N. So M as in magic. This company was started by an INSEAD alumni who saw an opportunity to help more MBA students finance their degree, whether they're from the US or international students. So check his company out. Back to this week's episode, in terms of how to show quant skills outside of your GPA and GMAT, what I did was, instead of pontificating about this, I certainly have my views, but what I did was I actually invited 3 admissions directors from Cornell Johnson, IMD, which is a top European business school based in Switzerland, and CEIBS, which is Asia's top-ranked MBA program, at least this year, by the Financial Times, to give their take on this issue. The question we actually got that inspired this episode was from Brian, again, one of our listeners who submitted a profile at touchmba.com, and he wrote, "I'm propping my quantitative courses. Do schools accept taking courses through Coursera? I've seen conflicting views online that say the online courses are not considered favorably or at all for that matter. What is your view?" And another question that was asked by Austin, who is in our Admissions Edge course. She wrote, "I recently returned from the abyss of GRE study. I'm not exactly thrilled with my quant score on the GRE. However, after taking it 3 times and getting the exact same score on the quant section with 200 plus hours of study, I'm ready to move on to showcasing my quant skills in other areas of the application. With a communications degree and only 1 quant course in college, statistics, I've heard it is best to take 1 to 2 quantitative courses at a community college to demonstrate your math prowess. However, I'm a bit confused on what courses the AdComs would prefer to see." And then she goes on to list 5 different pre-MBA type courses offered by UCLA Extension. So let's pass the mic to our first admissions director, and that's Eddie Asbie from the Cornell Johnson MBA program.
Hi, my name is Eddie Asbie, Associate Director of Admissions with Johnson at Cornell University. And I am responding to a question on how applicants can bolster evidence of quantitative skills outside of their university GPA and their GMAT. Of course, from the admissions committee standpoint, we want and need to have full confidence in an applicant's quantitative ability. And I know that a lot of that we can get from your GMAT and your GPA. But as an applicant, you're probably trying to identify other ways other than your transcript and the GMAT for us to be able to see, your strengths within the quantitative work. So some other ways that I wanted to mention of showing this evidence, I would say the first thing is really throughout your work experience itself. So I would say really think about the work that you're doing within your professional career that has a strong quantitative side to it. So if the work that you're doing is really focusing on modeling, this is a great way for you to really be able to highlight and show the strengths within that quantitative ability. Think about all the works that you've done, even if it's been from other companies where you've had a heavy quant focus. Those are the things that you want to be able to highlight throughout the application process and then interview to really be able to show the committee that, you can truly handle the core. And once again, another way of identifying your quantitative skills other than the GMAT and your GPA itself. Another thing that I can think of is really, having your recommenders speak on your behalf. So if you can have a manager, if you can have a supervisor who can really vouch for you and your quantitative ability, that is also going to be very key throughout the process. Whether it's in a letter of recommendation, whether it's in a letter endorsing you as well, these are going to be some key things that your manager, your supervisor is going to really want to be able to highlight and to really be able to talk about those strengths. The last thing that I want to mention is really going to be, potentially taking any type of online courses to really be able to show that quantitative ability. So maybe you've been out of school for quite a while. Maybe the work that you're doing doesn't have much of a quant focus behind it. Or maybe you're just trying to mentally get prepared for business school. Taking an online course can definitely, really help you throughout this application process. But then also, once again, it shows the committee that you're serious about this, but then also show the committee that it's something that's recent. So here at Johnson, we do encourage students to potentially take courses, through Coursera. I know that there are some, great courses on there from some great schools as well, whether it's also doing MBA math. MBA math is also another option for you, or even taking a course maybe at a local institution that can also show the committee your quantitative ability, but then once again, that you're serious about this process. If you decide to take a course at maybe a local institution, I would recommend something like an accounting, maybe a stats, maybe a financial analysis type course to really prepare. And once again, it's something that can truly help you throughout this process. Also, when it comes to those courses, I will say that I would say to make sure that you reach out to the schools that you're applying to, because every school may look at, maybe a Coursera course or maybe MBA math a little bit different. But once again, here at Johnson, we want to see you doing something to truly prepare. All right. So I hope that this information was helpful for you. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. Once again, my name is Eddie Asbie. My email address is ea356@cornell.edu. Once again, I wish you the best, and let me know how I can help. Take care.
Yes, I want to thank Eddie so much for sharing his insights and email address on the show. And I think he makes some really important points. It's common for most applicants to immediately start thinking about what courses, right, do I need to take to bolster my quant skill case. But showing your quant skills through your work experience and through a strong recommendation is also very powerful. And I also think Eddie dropped a lot of good hints in that when you're considering which online or offline quant course to take, it might be smart to look at that business school's curriculum. What are the core courses that they require? And see, which quant courses you can take that match that school's curriculum. And of course, reach out to that school as well to see what they prefer. In the case of Cornell Johnson, they do recommend, for example, mbamath.com, which I've recommended on this podcast. And you can actually go to their site and see a whole table of top business schools that either recommend or require mbamath.com. So I think that's a good tip, is knowing the curriculum of your target business schools and, trying to take those courses. Let's pass the mic to our next guest, Paola Eicher from IMD Business School.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paola Eicher. I'm the recruitment manager for IMD's MBA program in Lausanne, Switzerland. I'll be sharing with you a few insights on how to strengthen your analytical skills in your application, but also in the interview process. I would say that you have 3 ways of showing your analytical skills outside of the GMAT test. One would be depending on the type of degree you have studied. The second one is depending on your current role and responsibilities. And the third one would be through taking additional online courses or professional degrees or diplomas. Regarding your studies, I think it's important for you to assess whether the type of degree you have is regarded as highly quantitative or not. So typically engineers, finance, accounting people will already have an advantage because their degree is considered as analytical. Then we'll obviously look at the actual results of the degree. If you have a non-quantitative degree, such as social sciences, humanities, or marketing, we'll look at the most quantitative courses that you had and see how well you have done compared to other more qualitative subjects. So that's something, unfortunately, that you cannot change, but it's important for you to know whether this is already an element of showing quantitative skills or not. The second part is really to work on your job achievements and try and make sure that you actually quantify with numbers your impact and your delivery to the company. So avoid big concepts or taglines or phrases that are mainly on the qualitative side, and try to make sure that you showcase that you had to analyze data, to which extent, how complex your projects were, and what kind of research did you use, what kind of judgment calls do you have to make. All these elements will be important to see your, I would say, your thought process and your ability to handle data. The third element, and I think that was the question of one of you about online courses. I think this is more and more important. And indeed, if you have a non-business background, showing that you have started online courses in business or in finance or accounting, that will help us assess or judge your willingness to actually apply to a business program. I would say for the interview, be ready to show your business mindset, your logical thought process. Make sure you know where your industry is going, what are the challenges faced by your industry, who are your current competitors, who will be your competitors in the next 10 years. Be ready with accomplishments that demonstrate your analytical skills. If you have a case study, don't forget to refer to numbers in your analysis, and make sure you have an efficient way of expressing your ideas, and maybe you can get a few communication or efficient communication classes to make sure you know how to crack a business case. So I hope this was helpful for you. And I wish you all the best for your applications. And if you're interested in knowing more about these elements, don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you. Bye.
So thank you, Paola, for those thoughts. And yeah, I think it's really interesting that IMD is really looking for quant and analytical skills even in the interview, and how important that is to prepare for. And I think the most important thing that I took from Paola's comments is that taking these supplementary courses, whether you're taking them online or offline, just shows your willingness to put in the hard work. It shows that you've done a thorough self-evaluation and that you're willing to actually bolster your case and bolster your skills. And that's almost just as important as taking the courses themselves. So if you're on the fence over whether to take these courses or not, I'd say taking them will only help your case. Now let's give the floor to our third and final guest, Christina Mou from CEIBS.
Hi everyone, my name is Christina and I'm currently the Marketing and Admissions Manager here at China Europe International Business School, and I'm also the MBA that graduated from this program from the batch of 2016. So speaking from the applicant's perspective in terms of how online courses such as Coursera can help you better prepare with the interview or the application process, I do have to say online courses are not evaluated in our typical evaluation. There's not a checkbox that will guarantee a specific, it's not a needle shifter basically. But the thing is, it's up to the applicant's skill in terms of applying, weaving into the knowledge that you learned from Coursera. One of the things that I remember one applicant particularly impressed me was that through an online course that he had about marketing, especially about digital marketing, and then from his personal research about the ICSP, Integrated China Strategy project that our program has. So basically, ICSP is a program that we work with the current big company who focus in China market. For example, Nike. Currently, they have a online versus offline channel conflict. This is a very typical, marketing conflict now. A lot of time we see in the new retail era, especially with the digital disruption. So what the knowledge that he learned better dissecting, better understanding, better painting a profile of the new age, new generation, consumer was able to help him to get a better understanding into the China new retail. And then it was the forecast and the projection that he shared during his interview that helped us understanding that, okay, this candidate is someone who is proactively gathering and collecting resources elsewhere. Another thing I want to suggest to all applicants is that when in taking online courses, you do have to understand your own self-evaluation. So one example is if you are someone extremely strong in academics, meaning that if you have a strong undergrad, even master, even a PhD, I would say giving us examples of a real-world practical project would be beneficial for you. Versus someone who doesn't have a very strong academic record, then I would say online courses. Of course, how you apply those knowledge will definitely be more beneficial. Okay, so it's a lot about self-evaluation on where you are strong, where you are weak, and then finding supplement materials to make your weak stronger. And then also, another thing I want to note is that this is what our understanding, a lot of the Coursera courses offered by Wharton or Harvard, if you take you pay a little extra and you take a specific amount of courses in a specific amount of time, and then even go to a proctor location and get the specialized certification. And I do believe usually the top 50 performers actually get their application fees waived at those schools. And then I know for sure the admissions team actually keep a very close communication and close radar of those candidates. so do we. I definitely want to say that if you have, and let's just say, for example, if you have a good offer from any one of those schools, it's a great conversation starter with any school, I would say, in US, in Asia, or in Europe. Okay, I hope this sharing is beneficial. Thank you.
So yes, thank you, Christina, for those comments. And I think what's really interesting here is when you're figuring out which quant courses to take is to not only know the curriculum at your target business school, but to also consider your own interests and career goals. So, for example, if you really want to move into finance, but you don't have that background, then it probably makes sense to take finance-related quant courses to supplement your application, because this will also give AdComs more evidence that you've done a proactive self-evaluation of what you want to do, of what you're interested in, and you're actively taking steps to help you get there by taking these courses. So I think that's something to consider. So I hope listening to these three perspectives has helped you get a better idea of ways you can show evidence of your quant skills, outside your GPA and outside your GMAT. I think it's very confusing, right? I know there are some top business schools like INSEAD, for example, that give a very clear number. They say they prefer to see applicants with a quant score on their GMAT above the 75th percentile. But other schools, especially those schools famous for their finance programs like Wharton, Booth, Columbia, they give no indication about a minimum GMAT score or what courses to take even, right, to show your quant skills. So I think just as a rule of thumb, of course, there are exceptions to this, but I always encourage applicants to try to at least score above the 75th percentile on the quant section of their GMAT, especially if they don't have that academic quant background or performed poorly in university on quant courses. I think that's a pretty good rule of thumb. Obviously, the higher percentile you can score, whether that's 80th percentile or 90th percentile, the better. But I would say at a minimum, shoot for the 75th percentile. And I think that, again, showing that you have these skills through your CV and through picking recommenders who can highlight analytical projects or accomplishments, that's also a great way for you to show evidence of quant skills. What else? I think that MBAmath.com is probably the most affordable and convenient way to show your quant skills. I'm not paid by MBAmath.com. We have no relationship with them. But it's just that for the price you pay, it's an annual subscription, which is fairly cheap. And the fact that you can access all 24 of Professor Regan's courses there online, and the fact that so many top business schools are aware of MBAmath.com and even require MBAmath.com, I think that's a pretty safe bet. At the very least, go check out their site and see the table of schools that require or encourage their students to take MBAmath.com. I think that's a good starting place. And then, of course, if you want to go with the HBX or you want to go for like the Wharton Business Foundation courses on Coursera or take courses at your local college or community college, you can do that too. But obviously there's pros and cons there with cost, with whether you need that live environment or whether, maybe you don't have the time to be in that live environment and you need to take an online course. So there's lots of different factors. You guys know yourself best. You guys know which platform best suits your personal context. But if you have more thoughts on this, if you'd like to share your experiences, you can find this episode and the show notes at touchmba.com/how to show quant skills and put a dash between each of those words. That's where you'll be able to find this episode. I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments if you have any. And I hope this episode is useful to you and gives you some good ideas about how you can show quant skills in your application. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to the Touch MBA podcast. Don't be shy. We have a mailing list. Go to touchmba.com and get yourself signed up. And we'll keep you posted with the best tips and insider interviews on how to get into your number one school. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at Touch MBA. See you soon.